Howdy y'all, Christi here with Little Salty Homesteader. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. I am here today. I'm going to be working on some onion stuff out here in my North Texas vegetable garden. So actually what I have going on is a bit of an experiment where I'm going to be testing out a couple of theories regarding onions that people say help your onion bulbs grow bigger. So let's go ahead and talk about what those theories are and how I'm going to be performing this experiment. Alright, so there's a theory that spooning your onions will help the bulbs grow larger. And while I enjoy a good hug, that's not what we're talking about when it comes to onions. In onion gardening terms, spooning means scraping away some of the soil around the top part of the bulb. The idea is that this loosens the soil around your bulb and allows them to grow into that looser space. Now, many gardeners swear by this, while others state spooning is not necessary. Many gardeners state that planting your starts at the proper depth, fertilizing regularly, and then ensuring that you plant the correct type of onion for your growing area is all that is required to grow large onions. Another onion gardening theory is to trim the tops of the onions, so the green parts, to 5 inches above ground. The idea behind this is that by removing some of the height of the greens, the onion can concentrate all of its energy into the bulb formation. Because this is my second time ever growing onions, and I did literally no research the first time that I planted them, I cannot say if either of these theories or any of the other suggestions work. However, I can do an experiment with the onions that I do have planted. So I have 2 beds of onions. I have red onions planted over here, and you can kind of see where some of the tops got kind of bent from whenever I covered it from the cold weather. Then over here I have Texas 1015Y, super sweet, whatever they're called, Texas 1015Y. So one bed will have spooned onions and then the other bed will have topped onions. And within each of these beds, I will have one section that nothing has been done to. So basically that's my control sections, right? So we're gonna say the onions at this end, we're not gonna do anything to, we're just going to maintain the same regimen that we've been doing with them. And then the onions at this end will either be spooned or topped depending on which bed they're in. Everything else remains constant. The soil that they're growing in, the fertilizer regimen, when they get watered, the amount of sunlight they receive, all of that stuff remains the same. Just the 2 spooning and topping theories are what we are testing here with this experiment. At the end of the onion season, whenever we harvest them all, we will measure onions from each of the 4 sections to determine if any of these theories, or if either of these theories, pan out, and or if they're fiction. Are they fact or are they fiction? So what do you guys think? Do you think either of these theories are going to be successful, or is it a bust and you should just focus on planting onions the old-fashioned way and follow the rules? So we're gonna go ahead and get started with this bed here. This bed is where the 1015Y Texas sweet onions are. These are going to be the spooned onions, and then this bed where the red onions are is going to be the topped onions. So let me show you guys my handy dandy fancy divider so that we can determine the difference between the sections, and I will show you how to spoon and how to top said onions. First I have to get off the ground. Alright, so we are in front of this bed with the 1015Y Texas sweet onions, and you can see that I have the red planting cup turned upside down to separate the 2 sections. So this is going to be our control for this experiment. We're not going to do anything extra to these onions here, but these onions here around the base of the bulbs, we're just going to scrape away a little bit of the soil around And in theory, that will allow those bulbs to form out into that loosened soil. So I'm just gonna come through really quickly and take care of this. Alright, that didn't take too long at all. I'm trying to get around here so you guys can see where we move the soil around at the base of each of these onions. And then I stopped with this row right here. All right, with this bed that is up against the house, this has the sweet red onions, and you can see I have another red divider here to separate the control side from the experiment side. This will be the variable here. This side, we are going to trim all of the greenery on the onions to about this tall from the ground. I don't have an official measuring device in my bucket, but I figured that is close enough to 5 inches. So I'm just gonna hold it up next to the plants and then kind of trim it to that height. Additionally, one more note that I did want to bring up in regards to the onions and maintaining a fairly fair experiment. If any of the onions in any of the beds start to form seed pods, I'm going to go ahead and remove those. That is a sure sign that the onion is going to stop growing the bulb itself soon and is trying to, create future onions. So I am going to try to remove those as soon as I see them forming from any onions in both beds. I just wanted to point that out. All right, but let's go ahead and get started with trimming the tops of these onions, and we will see what that looks like at the end of this little run of video here. right, so all of the onions have had their hair cut for this side of the onion bed. I gotta say, the bed looks a lot more empty without them, without their full length. But we'll see what happens. That's part of the experiment, right? Okay, I'm really excited to see what happens with all of those onions. I don't think that either the spooning or the topping method is going to provide any really big noticeable results, but we'll see. Maybe I'm wrong. I hope that I am. I did want to mention that if you decide to top your onions and perform a similar experiment, or if you've topped your onions in the past and you found it works well for you, don't throw those tops away. I'm gonna go in, wash these, get them nice and dry. I'm gonna cut them in about 1/2-inch pieces, and then I'm gonna throw them in my dehydrator, and then I will have a jar of dried onions to use for soup mixes, sauces, anything that I feel like needs a little hint of onion without like an overpowering onion flavor. These dehydrated green onion tops can go into. So don't waste your onion tops, okay? But that is all I have for you today. If you liked today's gardening experiment and you want to see more random stuff that I do in my garden, please like, subscribe, and comment, and do all those different YouTube-y things. Otherwise, until next time, go find a way to get those garden manicures. Bye!